Designing fair and balanced assessments is a cornerstone of effective education. The very purpose of assessment is to gauge students' understanding, skills, and growth in a manner that is both accurate and equitable. However, the process of assessment design is fraught with complexities. Educators must navigate content validity, reliability, student diversity, bias, and the multifaceted purposes assessments serve. To achieve fairness and balance, educators must adopt a thoughtful, reflective approach that considers the needs of all learners and aligns closely with learning objectives. At the heart of fair assessment design lies the principle of alignment. Assessments should directly reflect the learning goals and outcomes established in the curriculum. This means that every question, task, or activity on an assessment should map back to what was taught and what students were expected to learn. Misalignment can result in confusion, frustration, and a misrepresentation of students' abilities. For example, if a course emphasizes critical thinking and analysis, but the assessment only measures rote memorization, it fails to provide a true picture of student achievement. Thus, clarity in goals and consistency between instruction and assessment are foundational to fairness. Another crucial element is the use of a variety of assessment methods. No single type of assessment can capture the full range of student abilities, especially in diverse classrooms. Traditional tests, such as multiple choice or short answer formats, are efficient for assessing factual knowledge and certain skills, but they may not fully reveal students' analytical thinking, creativity, or ability to synthesize information. Incorporating alternative assessments, such as essays, projects, presentations, portfolios, and peer assessments, can provide a richer, more nuanced understanding of student learning. By offering multiple avenues for students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills, educators can accommodate different learning styles and strengths, thereby enhancing fairness. Equity in assessment also demands careful attention to potential sources of bias. Bias can creep into assessments in many forms: cultural references, unfamiliar to some students, language that is unnecessarily complex, or assumptions about background knowledge that not all students share. To mitigate these risks, educators should review assessment items for cultural sensitivity, linguistic simplicity, and relevance to the intended learning outcomes. Where possible, involving colleagues or even students in the review process can help identify unintended biases. Additionally, piloting assessments with a small group of students before full implementation can reveal ambiguities or obstacles that might disadvantage certain learners. Transparency is another pillar of fair assessment. Students are more likely to succeed when they understand what is expected of them and how they will be evaluated. Providing clear rubrics, grading criteria, and sample responses demystifies the assessment process and empowers students to direct their efforts effectively. It is equally important to communicate the purpose of each assessment, whether it is formative, to guide learning, or summative, to measure achievement. When students perceive assessments as meaningful and aligned with their learning, they are more motivated to engage deeply. Feedback is a powerful tool for promoting fairness and supporting learning. Effective feedback is timely, specific, and constructive. It highlights strengths, identifies areas for improvement, and offers guidance for future learning. In formative assessments, feedback should focus on progress and growth, rather than solely on grades. Encouraging self-assessment and reflection helps students take ownership of their learning and develop critical metacognitive skills. In this way, assessment becomes a collaborative process, not just a judgment. Reliability is another essential consideration. An assessment is reliable if it yields consistent results across different contexts, times, and evaluators. While perfect reliability is difficult to achieve, steps can be taken to enhance it. For objective assessments, such as multiple-choice tests, careful item construction and statistical analysis can minimize ambiguity. For subjective assessments, such as essays or projects, using detailed rubrics and training graders to apply criteria consistently can improve inter-rater reliability. Periodic review and calibration among assessors help ensure that standards are maintained. Inclusion is a vital aspect of balanced assessment. Students come from diverse backgrounds and bring unique experiences, abilities, and challenges to the classroom. Inclusive assessment practices recognize and accommodate this diversity. For students with disabilities, providing appropriate accommodations, such as extended time, alternate formats, or assistive technology, ensures equal access to demonstrate learning. Universal Design for Learning, UDL. Principals advocate for flexible assessments that offer multiple means of representation, engagement, and expression, benefiting all students. Assessment timing and pacing also influence fairness. High-stakes, time-pressured assessments may disadvantage students who process information more slowly or experience test anxiety. Offering options such as untimed assessments, take-home assignments, or opportunities for revision can reduce stress and allow students to perform at their best. Spacing assessments throughout a course, rather than clustering them at the end, provides ongoing feedback and multiple chances for success. The context in which assessments are administered matters as well. Environmental factors, such as noise, lighting, seating, and access to resources, can affect student performance. Ensuring a comfortable, distraction-free environment is especially important for high-stakes assessments. For remote or online assessments, considerations include internet connectivity, device compatibility, and privacy. Clear instructions and support should be available to address technical issues. Ethical considerations underpin all aspects of assessment. Confidentiality of student data, respect for privacy, and responsible use of assessment results are fundamental. Educators must avoid using assessments as punitive tools or means of control. Instead, assessments should serve as instruments for learning, growth, and opportunity. When students trust that assessments are fair and designed with their best interests in mind, they are more likely to approach them with confidence and integrity. Continuous improvement is key to maintaining fairness and balance in assessment. Assessment data should be analyzed not only to evaluate student performance, but also to inform instructional practice and assessment design. Patterns of underperformance may indicate unclear instruction, misaligned assessments, or barriers faced by certain groups of students. Soliciting feedback from students about their assessment experiences can yield valuable insights and foster a culture of shared responsibility for learning. Professional development plays a central role in equipping educators with the knowledge and skills needed to design fair assessments. Workshops, peer collaboration, and engagement with current research can deepen understanding of assessment principles and strategies. Reflective practice, regularly examining one's own assessments for fairness, validity, and inclusivity, should be an ongoing commitment. Technology offers both opportunities and challenges for fair assessment. Digital platforms can facilitate diverse assessment formats, immediate feedback, and adaptive testing tailored to individual learner needs. However, reliance on technology can exacerbate inequities if all students do not have equal access to devices or the internet. Thoughtful integration of technology, with attention to accessibility and digital literacy, can enhance assessment while minimizing disparities. The role of formative assessment deserves special emphasis. Unlike summative assessments, which provide a snapshot of achievement at a single point in time, formative assessments are ongoing and embedded in the learning process. They include quizzes, drafts, discussions, self-checks, and informal observations. Formative assessment allows teachers to monitor progress, adjust instruction, and provide targeted support. It also enables students to identify gaps in their understanding and take proactive steps to address them. By focusing on growth rather than final outcomes, formative assessment fosters a supportive and equitable learning environment. Peer and self-assessment are powerful strategies for promoting fairness and engagement. When students evaluate their own work or that of their peers, they develop critical thinking, self-reflection, and a deeper understanding of quality standards. Peer assessment also exposes students to diverse perspectives and approaches. To ensure fairness, clear guidelines and criteria should be provided, and the process should be structured to prevent bias or discomfort. Culturally responsive assessment is increasingly recognized as essential for fairness. This approach acknowledges the cultural backgrounds, experiences, and values of all students. Culturally responsive assessments use examples, contexts, and language that are meaningful and accessible to diverse learners. They avoid stereotypes and deficit-based assumptions, involving students in the design of assessments, allowing choice in topics or formats, and valuing multiple ways of knowing can make assessments more inclusive and affirming. Balancing challenge and support is a delicate aspect of fair assessment. Assessments should be rigorous enough to stretch students' abilities and promote growth, but not so difficult that they become discouraging or unattainable. Differentiation, adjusting the level of challenge, scaffolding tasks, or offering extension opportunities, helps meet students where they are and supports their progression. High expectations, coupled with appropriate support, foster a sense of achievement and self-efficacy. Communication with families and guardians is another facet of fair assessment. Keeping families informed about assessment practices, expectations, and results builds trust and partnership. It also enables families to support their children's learning at home. Communication should be clear, respectful, and accessible, taking into account language preferences and cultural norms. Legal and policy frameworks shape assessment practices and set standards for fairness. Educators must be aware of relevant laws, such as those governing accommodations for students with disabilities, as well as institutional policies on grading, academic integrity, and data privacy. Adhering to these frameworks ensures that assessments are not only fair in principle, but also in practice. Grading practices warrant careful consideration. Traditional grading systems, which aggregate scores from various assessments into a single letter or percentage, may obscure important differences in learning and progress. Standards-based grading, which reports student achievement relative to specific learning goals, offers greater clarity and fairness. It separates academic performance from behaviors such as effort or participation, reducing subjectivity and bias. Retakes and revision opportunities can enhance fairness by recognizing that learning is an ongoing process. Allowing students to revisit assessments, correct errors, or demonstrate growth over time shifts the focus from one-time performance to mastery. Clear policies and boundaries are necessary to maintain accountability, but flexibility can motivate students to persist and improve. Assessment of group work presents unique challenges. Group projects can foster collaboration, communication, and problem-solving, but they also raise questions about individual accountability and fairness. Transparent criteria, regular check-ins, and mechanisms for self and peer evaluation can help ensure that contributions are recognized and that assessment reflects both group and individual achievement. Language proficiency is a significant factor in assessment fairness, particularly for students who are English language learners or multilingual. Assessments should distinguish between language proficiency and content knowledge. avoiding penalization for language errors unrelated to the learning objectives, providing glossaries, translations, or alternative response formats can support equitable access. For early childhood and primary education, developmentally appropriate assessment is critical. Young learners benefit from assessments that are play-based, observational, and integrated into daily activities. These approaches respect the developmental stages of children and provide a holistic picture of growth across cognitive, social, emotional, and physical domains. In higher education and adult learning, assessments often serve additional purposes, such as certification, licensure, or employment readiness. Fairness in these contexts requires transparency about stakes and consequences, as well as support for diverse learners. Authentic assessments, tasks that mirror real-world challenges, can increase relevance and motivation while also providing a more accurate measure of readiness. Assessment in online and blended learning environments introduces new considerations. Digital assessments can offer flexibility and immediacy, but they also raise concerns about academic integrity, accessibility, and student engagement. Strategies such as randomized question banks, open book formats, and project-based assessments can address some of these challenges. Clear communication and support are essential to ensure that all students can participate fully. Reflecting on the broader purposes of assessment can guide fair design. Assessment is not merely a gatekeeping mechanism or a means of sorting students. It is a tool for promoting learning, informing instruction, and supporting growth. When assessments are designed with this broader vision in mind, fairness and balance become natural outcomes. Collaboration among educators enhances assessment quality. Sharing resources, co-designing assessments, and engaging in moderation or standardization processes help ensure consistency and fairness across classes and programs. Professional learning communities provide a forum for discussing challenges, sharing best practices, and collectively refining assessment strategies. Student voice is a powerful driver of fairness. Involving students in the assessment process through co-creation of criteria, choice of topics, or reflection on outcomes fosters agency and investment. Listening to student feedback about assessment experiences can surface issues of fairness that might otherwise go unnoticed. Data-informed decision-making strengthens fair assessment. Analyzing assessment results by demographic groups can reveal patterns of inequity and prompt targeted interventions. Using assessment data to inform instructional planning, resource allocation, and professional development ensures that all students have the support they need to succeed. Ethical dilemmas sometimes arise in assessment. For example, balancing the need for confidentiality with the desire to provide individualized feedback, or navigating tensions between standardized testing requirements and the needs of diverse learners. Open dialogue, adherence to professional standards, and consultation with colleagues can help resolve such dilemmas in ways that prioritize fairness. Resilience and adaptability are essential qualities for educators engaged in assessment design. The landscape of education is constantly evolving, with new technologies, pedagogies, and societal expectations. Continuous learning, openness to feedback, and willingness to revise assessment practices in light of new evidence are hallmarks of a fair and balanced approach. Ultimately, fair and balanced assessment is not a destination, but a journey, a process of continual reflection, adaptation, and improvement. It requires empathy, creativity, and a deep commitment to equity. By centering the needs of all learners, aligning assessments with meaningful goals, and fostering a culture of trust and collaboration, educators can ensure that assessment serves as a positive force in education. The impact of fair and balanced assessment extends beyond the classroom. It shapes students' self-perception, motivation, and lifelong learning habits. When students experience assessment as supportive, transparent, and meaningful, they are more likely to take risks, persist through challenges, and develop a growth mindset. Conversely, unfair or unbalanced assessments can undermine confidence, perpetuate inequities, and stifle potential. As society becomes increasingly diverse and interconnected, the imperative for fair assessment grows stronger. Education must prepare students not only to master content, but to navigate complexity, collaborate across differences, and contribute to a just and inclusive world. Assessment, when designed with care and intention, can be a powerful lever for achieving these aims. To summarize, designing fair and balanced assessments is a multifaceted endeavor that demands intentionality, reflection, and collaboration. Key strategies include aligning assessments with learning goals, employing diverse methods, minimizing bias, ensuring transparency, providing effective feedback, fostering inclusion, attending to reliability and validity, and engaging in continuous improvement. By embracing these principles, educators can create assessment environments in which all students have the opportunity to succeed and thrive. In practice, this means starting with clear learning objectives and working backward to design assessments that authentically measure those objectives. It means seeking input from colleagues, students, and communities to ensure that assessments are relevant and accessible. It means being vigilant about sources of bias and actively working to eliminate them. It means using assessment data not only to judge, but to inform, support, and inspire. The journey toward fair and balanced assessment is ongoing. It challenges educators to confront assumptions, embrace diversity, and continually refine their craft. But the rewards are profound. More equitable outcomes, more engaged learners, and a more just and effective educational system. By placing fairness and balance at the heart of assessment design, educators honor the dignity and potential of every student, laying the foundation for lifelong learning and success.